In the lame duck session right now, Donald Trump is going to do an unprecedented move and have federal executions scheduled before the inauguration day. Usually, this is usually not done because capital punishment actually was not normal for at least a good 8 years. We did not kill people for 8 years. And even before that, it was about 10 years in general. Um, but here we go. Starting with Brandon Bernard on International Human Rights Day and ending with Dustin Higgs on January 15, Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. Four of the people set to die are black men, and the other is Lisa Montgomery, a severely mentally ill white woman who faced a lifetime of sexual abuse and would be the first woman executed in nearly 70 years. So let's just go to
the video.
I'm Amy Goodman. As we look further at the unprecedented 5 federal executions President Trump's Justice Department is scheduled before Inauguration Day. On December 10th, that's International Human Rights Day, the federal government plans to kill a 40-year-old black man named Brandon Bernard. He was 18 years old when he was allegedly an accomplice to a murder of a young white couple. During his trial, his attorneys did not make opening statements. At the penalty stage, they called no witnesses. Out of the 12 jurors, all but one was white. Now, 5 of the jurors say they think Bernard should not be executed. A former assistant U.S. attorney who helped secure his death sentence wrote in the Indianapolis Star, quote, "Executing Brandon would be a terrible stain on the nation's honor." That's one of the prosecutors who prosecuted him. On the day after Bernard is set to die, Alfred Bourgeois, another black man, is scheduled to be federally executed December 11th. As we reported January 12th, Lisa Montgomery is scheduled to be the first woman executed by the federal government in nearly 70 years. The Trump administration has rejected her request for a reprieve. On January 14th, Corey Johnson, another black man, is set to be put to death. According to Johnson's attorneys, he has an IQ of 69, which means he's below the standard the Supreme Court used to determine if an execution would be cruel and unusual punishment. And on January 15th, Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, the federal government's expected to execute Dustin Higgs, another black man who was sentenced to die for his role in the murder of 3 women, even though he did not kill them, under the so-called law of parties theory.
Wow.
So there's multiple things to unpack under there. Those are all reasonable reasons not to execute. Those are like, it is him breaking every standard of what we believe is normal and compassionate. Like, you don't execute somebody who doesn't have an IQ above 70. This has been under Supreme Court, and unfortunately he's just going to do it. And it's not like he's going to be brought to court for it. So, it's all these small things that, like, we're going to have the first president who now in a lame duck session starts executing people and doing criminal punishment, doing capital punishment upon its citizens again. When we've already kind of said that it is a cruel and unusual punishment for the most part on a federal level. So he's changing a norm. And I think it's very relevant that, as much as I don't want to talk about Trump, I think that the norms that he has changed are important to discuss.
His base loves it. His base loves saying things like this. This is the type of stuff that they drool over. That's just my opinion. It's crazy. His base believes so much in religion and so on and so forth, but then also, when it comes to law and order, they feel like, if a person did this, they deserve the harshest, penalties for it, or, punishment for it. And I don't know, man. To me, it's crazy. A lot of the stuff that he does is crazy. I think he's doing this because he's planning on leaving. He wants a reputation that his followers like, so that because he's supposedly going to come back at 2024 or whatever, he's supposed to try to, if supposedly his election fraud things don't work out, he's going to come back in 2024. He wants his base to still love him and still think about him. He's keeping the attention on him. That's what it all is. You know, like we're going to talk about later about the whole military thing and the 230 section 230 thing. All of that stuff is go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, please finish.
I just think that all this is for attention. He's doing a lot of this stuff like it doesn't affect him. It's stuff that his base likes. It's I can understand like why people want to punish people that were involved in crimes, but if they weren't the direct reasons for a death, or like you said, or like they said actually, the person's IQ was low, or the person didn't do it, and would that what was it, that parties, what was it called, the parties guilty by parties or whatever it is, they said something.
It's actually a theory so guilty by party. So basically, he was an accomplice to murder.
He was there. He was an accomplice basically. So he didn't pull the trigger or kill the people, but he's going to be sentenced to death for it.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, it's like, and the people that were involved, like the jurors or whatever, say that he shouldn't be, but that he's going against that. That's sick, man. Like that. I don't know.
It's actually a breakdown in the system. This is where criminal justice reform actually is necessary, where there is a separation in what the will of the jury is, because with the way that we deem people innocent or guilty is literally, if it's a certain type of trial, a criminal trial, you have to be convicted beyond a reasonable doubt. And that also means that when that reasonable doubt threshold has been passed, oftentimes that is an instant conviction.
Yep.
Most times, if somebody, for instance, in the first, I forgot his name, unfortunately, but it's important. So let me just make sure I have his name here. That's what I get for closing tabs, guys.
God help us, man. I feel like Trump is taking us back in time to like
There we go.
The Twilight Zone, whenever that was. I feel like we're in the Twilight Zone with his decision making and everything. It's like I remember back in the days I would hear stories about things happening to people of different races in jail, all this, and I'm like, this is so unfair, and this makes absolutely no, it's barbaric, you know what I mean? And I don't know, man. It's scary times, man.
To speak on it directly, it is Brandon Bernard, and what happened is that in the opening of his he did not get an opening for his trial, and they did not give him a proper closing to his trial, and that's his own defense attorney. And to this point, he is deemed most likely either innocent or not guilty of the charges that were given to him, the homicide charges that were given to him. So what are you going to do now? Because this is not a compassionate leader. This is not somebody who is looking to give anybody a pardon that is actually, or not even a pardon. You would just give them, I forgot what the word is, but you would basically commit this to a later time so that you would probably never execute the person.
This guy's gonna murder people. Trump's gonna allow people to murder people for things that they shouldn't be, put to death for. And yet he's gonna pardon all these other people. He's got controversies about pardons now, yet he's doing this crap. You know what I mean? It's like his whole thing. It kills me because you think to yourself, like, why doesn't his base see this like as being abnormal? Like, this is abnormal. Maybe because it's not going to directly affect them, and they might not ever find themselves in that position. But it's just the fact that
that's exactly it, and that's the us versus them issue that you are trying to talk about. Even like I don't know how much of them just dig in the red meat so much that they will never be able to come back from it. But the truth is that yes, there's a considerable part of this country that really loves to see people suffer for their mistakes. And that's a hard reality that we need to educate people out of. In a way, it's sociology. Like you brought it up last week with war in different countries, being that war is seen in different countries as just a norm. In some ways we see like gun violence, and we see sometimes abuse as norms, and we haven't gotten out of that, and that spreads to
we think a lot of stuff is normal here. Not being provided healthcare is normal. You know what I mean? Like in this country, which is crazy. Everything that, like, a lot of other, well, not everything, but a big percentage of the stuff that we find normal here is abnormal in a lot of countries. Having guns, like, there's a lot of countries that don't want their citizens to have guns walking around doing God knows what with them. They don't want to have their citizens getting sick and not being provided health care, to not have, enough of a living wage to survive. It's crazy what this country allows, and the fact that the people here actually are, like, cool with it. I mean, a big percentage of them are. They're like, well, that's just how it is, and this is how it's supposed to be, and you got to earn it, and you got to do this. And I'm like, okay, but you pay taxes. Where did our taxes go with the stimulus?